Hi, I am Kevin Quigley, and welcome to Tarot Off the Cuff. I picked up my first tarot deck in 1982 when I was 12 years old. I spent the summer giving readings to my friends and kind of freaking them out, and then I misplaced it. Maybe 15 years later, I picked up another tarot deck, and I've been reading professionally pretty much since then. Tarot reading for me is about building up a conversation. A conversation not just between myself and my client, but between our higher selves, so that we might bring down some information that might help make us a little bit more conscious and maybe even our lives a little bit better. Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Quigley with Tarot Off the Cuff. I picked up the Light Seer's Tarot here to do a reading for today, and this is, in a weird way, it's kind of a special reading. I decided that I should do something specifically for the Samhain, Halloween, Day of the Dead time of year when the veil is a little thin, just to mark that. So I am doing this in 2020 on in between Halloween and the Day of the Dead, and then we'll get this posted as soon as possible. So I'm giving this deck a little bit of a shuffle, and I usually cut into 3 piles. I'm going to do that as well. Hopefully I won't shake the camera too much because I'm using a slightly rickety keyboard stand to do that. All right, I'm going to take a second to sort of breathe. And I'm asking the deck. I'll often do this too. I'm asking the deck for a card that will resonate with that theme. All right. Okay, so I have pulled, let me bring it closer to me, the Eight of Swords from the Light Seer's Tarot. Hold that up. It's kind of an intense card, but I'm super happy in terms of the way this can relate to that theme. We've got a woman down here looking into what you might imagine is a mirror. And in the mirror, her reflection, she is tied up, she's blindfolded, she's surrounded by these pesky crows. But in the real world here, the one that kind of shares the perspective of the viewer, she's not tied up. So there's an illusion of being caught or trapped happening within this card. So I'm going to set this down below the camera so I can take a look at it. As I said earlier when I read this deck, this is my newest deck, and I am deeply falling in love with it. I just love this image. So the topic that comes to mind for me, considering the time of year that I'm pulling this card and considering the card itself, so let's combine those two ideas, is fear. How do you handle fear as a tarot reader? And with the time that I have here, I'm keeping close track on time, we might be able to cover this from a few different perspectives and angles. The first kind of fear that I'll talk about is the fear of the actual reader. So as a teacher of the tarot, I teach both beginners and even professional level readers, different kinds of techniques and different things like that, which is essentially what this channel is all about. I often hear them talk about and share the fears that they have about being a tarot reader, what it means, what happens if your reading is inaccurate, what happens if it's not helpful, what happens if someone comes to you for a health reading, the stakes are high in that case, what happens if questions such as death and the other side, and things like that come up. What happens if, so for instance, in my technique a lot, I'll read with almost no information, and I let my clients know, you don't actually have to share things with me at all. I don't need to know your personal story in order to do a reading. If we both are able to trust that the powers that be, whatever they are, however you define them, however I define them, are going to put the cards in front of my eyes that cause me to say the things in a way that then you need to hear, or you will be able to find useful, that's what works. And if I trust that, my readings pretty much always go really well. I also then add, if at a certain point you want more information, you want a clearer response or something like that, you can share with me as much of your personal story as you would like. I don't talk about my readings with any other people. with the single exception of maybe if I'm teaching and the reading was for a person that's definitely far, far, far removed from the social sphere of the people I'm reading for, or I'm teaching, I mean, then I will feel free to maybe mention something as an example without giving any information as to who I was reading for and maybe even when I did the reading and things like that. So I try to keep everyone's privacy as highly observed and honored as possible. Fear. How does one handle fear as a reader? I actually know a fair number of individuals who, while they're working on their craft as a tarot reader, have decided not to do readings for other people because they are afraid of either not doing well or making a mistake that really matters. And I would say this is not an illegitimate fear, right? I believe in karma. I believe in having lived past lives. I've had recall along those lines and things like that. Now, I don't require that anybody I teach or anybody I read for actually buy that as fact. In fact, you can outright deny it and things work just fine. We can still be friends and all of that sort of stuff. But these things in my life are real. And I do believe that we've got social contracts with each other. We've got spiritual and karmic contracts with each other. As a teacher, I teach a lot of middle school and I teach a lot of undergrad in different disciplines. And then I also teach adults to read tarot and to work with the cards. So there's a karmic contract from every teacher to every class. Children, adults, doesn't matter. They're asking me, they asked me on the other side, will you be our teacher? And I said yes. So along those lines, they are asking me to do a reading for them. That client is asking me to do a reading for them. That class is asking me to teach them, so on and so forth, because of my qualities, because of the things that I can give them, my wisdoms, my way of speech, the things I've learned, the skills I have, all of that, important. Also important are the mistakes I'll make. Also important are the things I'll overlook or the negative aspects of my character. All of these things are important. They're all there to help teach someone, to either offer someone a reflection that they need to see that my character or my personality or my person is able to do. But even the mistakes that I might make, give them challenges that they can then overcome later on in life, right? So I rest my technique as a tarot reader and as a teacher on that fundamental idea that I was asked by the people I am serving to step forward and do this and to do it the best I can. I do believe in working on my craft. I do believe in improving. I forgive myself when I screw up or when I make a mistake or when I don't, I feel like I'm not acting at my best. I try to own that as much as possible. Whenever those things happen, I'll sometimes even apologize if it makes sense or try to make up for it. I can't remember ever having a reading that went so poorly that I felt I needed to offer the person another reading or even provide some sort of recompense. But over, the 30 or so years that I've been reading cards, there have been a few times when I was like, oh, that didn't go so well. And most of the time, I've also learned, like one of the things I've learned from that is to trust my intuition, because I always knew beforehand that this is a person that I should not be reading for, and then I either let somebody talk me into it or I felt a responsibility to do the reading in some way, and now I am very quick. It's not fear that shows up, but necessarily, maybe a little, maybe it feels like that a little bit, but I'm very quick to refer someone to another reader that I feel might get them better or that they'll relate with better, or those sorts of things, right? So my way to get over that fear is to trust that the powers that be and that my higher self and that the higher self of the people I'm serving have put me into that position for a reason. I trust that. I really do. So I step forward and I'll do the reading. Okay, I've got a few minutes left. The next reading is, or the next idea is, what do we do with fear in our clients? when fear shows up in our clientele, oftentimes somebody comes to a reader looking for some sort of reassurance. There's even a position in the Celtic cross spread that most people read, the ninth card, most people read as, well, I'll do it the way I read it. I call it hope, fear. Now, I've named it that position. I've seen it named that way in other places, but I arrived at being comfortable with combining the hope and the fear from my interest in Taoism. Taoists will often make a statement along the lines of, neither hope nor fear are truly acceptable causes for action. We want to do our best to let hope and fear go. Because quite often, as we all know, the thing that we're fearing, we might be changing our actions based on a fear of something happening, but if that fear is irrational, for instance, people will get into a car and drive all over the world and spend tons of hours in their car, but they'll let fear stop them from getting on an airplane. But all of the data tells us that airplanes are one of the safest ways to travel, far safer than automobiles, right? So observing that particular fear isn't serving you. At the same time, allowing hope to move us into a taking action of some kind. Oftentimes we can hope for the thing that we least need. So as an example that way, let's say someone is hoping that, like, okay, I'm going to go extreme here. An alcoholic is hoping that people at work don't discover that they have now started drinking at work, when maybe what they really need is someone at work to discover that, and maybe it will be someone that's in the program and can step forward with compassion and help and offer assistance, right? So one of the ways I deal with that, first of all, I love having that card, that position in the Celtic cross, because I do use it, not exclusively, but every once in a while it comes up. Because I represent hopes and fears as things to be released. In both cases, let's make ourselves aware of them. Oh, okay, here's a fear you might be carrying, or here's a hope you might be carrying, but let's let those things go so that we can operate on a clarity of the situation that we're actually in right now, and then make a response to that based from the truth that sits within our heart, within our person, as opposed to the thing we're dreading or the thing we're really hoping that we can get, right? So let's let those two things go and just take a look at what's real and how might I best respond to that in a way that's truthful to me. In my opinion, that's always going to get you to the best possible conclusion. So that's the first thing, is like, let's let go. Let's let go of that fear. And let go of that hope. Got to say it too. Then the next one is what is the purpose of fear? I'll take a couple of minutes to talk about that. I have a whole class that I've designed, although I've yet to teach this particular class, but it's because it's designed for professional tarot readers or people that are in the practice. And maybe I'll make a master class out of it when we start posting master classes on this channel sometime in the future. But I've boiled it down for me. And I think one of the most useful ways to handle fear is fear's job is to make us awake. Fear's job is to make us pay attention. Take a look around, right? So pulling the blanket up over your head when you're experiencing fear is probably the worst thing you can do. Going to investigate something, in most cases, I will say, in my opinion, take a look at it, is the best. Now, of course, we know horror movies are sort of built on this trope of, wait a minute, I just heard someone break a window, or I heard glass break downstairs, and then somebody gets up out of bed and climbs downstairs unprepared. They don't have shoes on, they're not really dressed, and they don't really know what situation they're stepping into, right? Maybe that's a little unwise, but it's probably smarter than just hiding in your bedroom waiting for whatever that's going to happen to come, right? But if one can stay calm, if one can surf the wave of adrenaline that comes along with fear and move into that situation and take a look at it, one's going to do better in every case. Now, the tarot, if we're doing a reading where that fear comes up, sometimes I'll even draw an extra card or two or three to say, okay, so I'm sensing there's some trepidation or some fear or concern here. Maybe there's something we can do to mitigate that a little bit. What are the specific techniques that we can take to help, right? So the basic idea of fear, I'm going to say, for me, coming from me, is this idea of step into the situation, take a look, right? So in this card, this person is taking a look in a situation where they're not actually experiencing, or they may be experiencing feeling tied up or restrained, and what they're seeing back is not an accurate picture. So if they really investigate, they may discover, oh, everything's okay. Or, oh, maybe I'm not tied up, or this feeling of being tied up is coming out of, oh, I just heard my alarm clock go off. I forgot to turn it off and I'm downstairs already, or I'm in a different part of the house and that alarm has triggered me, right? So there could be a million reasons to understand why you're experiencing that fear and how you can let it go. How you can use it by waking you up, recognize what's happening in your life or in your world, and then you can let it go and make a true choice for yourself. Okay, I'm Kevin Quigley. This is Tarot Off the Cuff, and we've been looking or talking about fear inspired by the Eight of Swords from the Light Seer's Tarot. We'll see you again soon. Thanks so much. Hey, this is Kevin.
Hi, this is Nooch.
Thanks for watching.
If you like what you saw, please hit a thumbs up and subscribe. You'll know when new ones are coming. And share with your friends.
We'll see you soon.